I'm Colleen. Hey everyone, I'm Colleen. I'm one of the intern supervisors. We just want to thank you for taking the time to see the passion project for this year's intern cohort, which is a concept for an exhibition and museum developed completely from scratch. We supervisors have had the pleasure of supporting you and seeing you all grow, and we are so impressed with all the work that you've done for not just the passion project, but for the team projects in general. So we want you to be proud of everything you've done, and we're really excited to support you and see this presentation. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, Pauline. So I'll be kickstarting our presentation. Hello, everyone. We're the 2024 summer interns, and we're here to present our passion project. We're really excited to be sharing our work. And here's the overview of our team. We have Christina, Nicholas, Matthew, JC, Cindy, Sam, Ella, and Madeline. We won't go into introductions, but we'll have everybody talk throughout the presentation. And here are some photos of our documentation of how we have been working. We have been working bi-coastal and throughout the world in different time zones and just collaborating online, which has been a hoot. So yeah, without further ado, let's go into the actual walkthrough of our museum.
Hi, everyone. So our museum is called Evoke, Museum of the Senses. And it's all about the different human senses. And so here really quick is a table of contents. We do have an appendix at the end that features more content and details about some of the elements that we don't have time to fully go into, but definitely check that out if you're interested. And here's a quick overview. So we'll start with our mission statement. And the main mission for our museum is to celebrate the importance of authentic, mindful sensory experiences in an increasingly digital world. And so we invite visitors to engage in immersive explorations of their senses, fostering a renewed appreciation for the world we inhabit and the ways we perceive it. And our overall vision is to cultivate a community deeply attuned to their senses and the interconnected world around them.
Thank you so much, Madeline. And so building off our mission and vision statement, we also wanted to create these three main learning goals for our museum to really frame our interpretive thinking as we were creating this concept package. So the three learning goals are 1, mindfulness, 2, our interconnected world, and 3, sensory inclusion. They go hand in hand with our vision or mission and vision statement, but I'll go a little bit more into depth into each of the learning goals. So the first one, mindfulness, it's meant to encourage visitors to fully understand what is happening with them in the present moment, specifically in regards to their senses and their bodies. We know mindfulness has been like a little bit of a trend or sort of a buzzword lately, but we really wanted to weave these practices into the museum because of the importance of being in touch with your senses. And in the end, it culminates in our last gallery, the mindfulness room, which we'll also go into depth later. Our second goal is called our interconnected world. And this one emphasizes to visitors the importance of cultivating relationships with themselves, with others, and with the environment and the natural world, and how that is all very intertwined. For example, we talk about things such as scent-based communication, how we listen to the environment. And this is a really important learning goal for us, especially given the way that technology has transformed the world for better and for worse, obviously. And we want to know or teach visitors how they can reconnect with their senses in this digitized age. And then our last learning goal is called sensory inclusion. And we wanted to approach this from 2 ways, from a content perspective, but also from a more practical spatial design perspective. So on the content side, we want to teach visitors about how people experience the world around them differently in equally rich ways. And then from a physical, practical standpoint, we have things like quiet zones and sensory-friendly interactive to make sure that we can accommodate visitors with different sensory sensitivities and make sure the museum is for everyone. And so now I'll pass it to Christina to talk about our experience goals.
Thank you, Ella. So with our learning goals in mind, our experience goal is building up developmental journey. So the first one is the enhanced sensory awareness. So at this part, we would like to educate visitors to deepen their understanding of their sensory perceptions. Building on top of that, we also want to help visitors to understand their relationship about their individual sensory perceptions and their surroundings, so they feel more connected and more aware. And finally, we want to inspire a mindful moment to design a reflective and present moment awareness to help visitors to understand the mindfulness. Now I'll hand over to the team to talk about location and audience.
Thanks, Christina. So like Christina said, before we explore what is inside our museum, we'd like to take a step back and set the stage with our strategy and finance to answer the questions, where are we and who are we here to serve? How are we going to do it? So after deliberation and consideration of local economies, various population demographics, and museum and attraction markets, we chose Sydney, Australia as our final site. Sydney has a strong and well-distributed population under the age of 40, which is crucial for reaching our target audiences. Additionally, Sydney is a popular tourist destination with a total yearly potential audience of over 15 million people, and it has a relatively unsaturated market in the museum and attraction industries. So to succeed, we will target 4 specific audience groups among the general population. First, our museum's educational and family-friendly content will be attractive to school groups and families with children. Next, the unique value of our museum will play massively to a tourist audience, both existing tourists to Sydney and new ones from around the country and the world. Then our mindfulness and self-reflective featured exhibits will pull in a young millennial and young Gen Z audience, which are groups seeking places to gather with others or alone to engage in contemplation and centering activities while learning. Lastly, wellness enthusiasts will enjoy both the mindfulness amenities and a range of physical activity spaces. We turn now to examine our finances and our plans for supporting a sustainable, long-term museum of the senses.
Okay, great, Matt. We used several categories and subcategories to find a list of comparable institutions that will have meaningful similarities to Evoke, and we analyzed their financial and attendance data to build out what we think our museum will do. To estimate our attendance, we use capture rate, which is attendance divided by tourism plus the population that lives within 50 miles of the institution. In other words, what percentage of the total potential audience is the institution converting to visitors? This lines up well with the median attendance and suggests that we'll be able to get 200,000 people per year. Over time, however, as the museum matures, we can hope to get more closer to maybe 400,000 or 500,000 people. And we looked at these 4 institutions as our most comparable set and found that Evoke will need to have to act more like an attraction with interactives and auxiliary ways of making money, like a restaurant. It takes years and significantly more resources to make a traditional art museum successful. So we're going to have a mix that appeals to this wide range of people and really showcases some great things about the senses. We use historical data from,
So after reviewing ticket prices from these comparable institutions and considering the revenue that we would need to stay in operation, we arrived at ticket prices of $23 for an adult, $20 per senior, $15 per youth, $10 per university student, and free admission to young children and to the military. And these tickets fall slightly above the average for a comparable institution, but given the variety of experiences included, the average length of stay that we anticipate, and our mission for increasing accessibility to all, we think these ticket prices are justified and the best fit for us. So our other 2 major sources of revenue will be event rental spaces and food and beverage. All galleries and areas of the museum will be available for rental for private events at certain times, and we will also be including a full restaurant and bar, which is available to both ticketed and non-ticketed residents. And this event rental and food and beverage is more or less a standard among these comparable institutions, but that full service restaurant and bar going beyond just a typical museum cafe is one way that we can set ourselves apart and increase revenue together.
We use historical data from several different G&A projects, including the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum and the National World War II Museum, to find what it will likely cost to build our museum. And we found that $600 per square feet is a reasonable base price, which we then adjusted based on the room. We included things that over our internships have come up as being necessary for a museum to maximize its competitive edge, like a theater and dining area that each increase a visitor's time with us. And given who our museum will cater to, we came up with these percentages for who will be with us, and based on the ticket prices, how much revenue they'll be making up for. And we used historical data from the Mob Museum and other projects to estimate the income for our rental spaces and dining complex. And then here to summarize a lot of this is our brief pro forma. Looking into the future, like most museums, we will operate at a small deficit, but with our endowment income, we will be net cash flow positive and be a stable and long-lasting institution. And now I'll pass it on to our wonderful design team who have something truly special prepared for you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Now I'll introduce what visitors will actually experience in our museum. So as I previously mentioned, there are 3 experiential goals which act as the primary hero principle for any of our design decision. So now you're seeing the bubble diagram. So because we have 3 experiential goal steps building up, which maps into our bubble diagram into 3 areas, which are foundations, area 1, and area 2 combination, and area 3 refraction. So there are 9 rooms in total, which including G0 from G0 to G8. So G0 is the nervous system, which is conventionally in the museum setting, acting as the lobby and hall. Visitors starting from G0 and flowing into area 1. So in area 1, there are like 5 rooms in total. So these 5 rooms, we will introduce and educate visitors to be more aware of their individual senses. The detailed content will be unfolded by the team later. So traveling from area 1 to area 2, entering into the combination. So this area, including 2 rooms, these 2 rooms are mixed sensory experiences, which educate visitors about their individual sensory and the relationship with their surroundings. So finally, entering the area 3, the reflection, which is our most immersive room for visitors to experience, which is the mindfulness room, which we will unfold more details later as well. So I want to highlight 2 consideration when we're designing the bubble diagram. So firstly, in G4, you might see there is a slightly darker blue inside that room. So this room is the taste food for thought. So the first this room has dual functionality. The first functionality is to educate visitor about the taste, but however, we're aware that this room can also serve as a we can have a cafe in this room, acting as a more leisure and chilling area for visitors to relax if they're feeling like tired or have somewhere to like grab a coffee. So this room can also be directly entered through G0. And another highlight of this bubble diagram is the slightly gray and abstract shape of 2 gray bubbles. So those bubbles are quiet zone, which will be detailedly introduced by our team later. Yeah, so building on that, we have this user map. More content will be unfolded by our team later. I will introduce the emotional journey here. So because this room has from a more interpretative strategy level, we are introducing a more developmental emotional journey. So starting from area 1 foundation, this journey we are more focused on inspire and inform visitors to pique their curiosity so that they can move into area 2 with a more like focus and like willing to try something new. So area 2 emotion, we will more encouraging a participatory journey. And then finally coming to area 3, which is the most immersive room during the whole journey. Now I'll hand over to JC.
So in between going to each of the rooms, you might get overwhelmed. You might need to sit down and take a minute to relax. And that's what the quiet zones are for. The quiet zones are very soft, carpeted and sound isolated rooms that are very comfortable, that you can just sit in and calm down before you go to the next room or before leaving the museum if you need to do that.
Thank you, JC and Christina, for the user experience. I will walk you through the design system that I've built. So in creating the Evoke, we wanted to move away from traditional and scientific approaches to museum design and instead focusing on engaging the senses more intuitively and experientially. So this mood board can reflect elements that are dynamic, engaging, and designed to spark curiosity. So I thought of three directions of making this mood board. Those are immersion, interactivity, and playfulness. So our goal is to create spaces where visitors feel completely absorbed as though they've stepped into a new world of sensory experiences. And for interactivity, you can look at the playful interactive elements featured in these images. We also want our exhibits to encourage active participation and allowing visitors to touch, listen, and engage in ways that make each experience uniquely their own. And last, yeah, this I didn't talk about the mood board yet. Can you go up, Alex? Yeah. And the mood board serves as a visual guide for my design process. It really helped me ensure that every element of museum aligns with our mission to celebrate and enhance sensory experiences in a meaningful and engaging way. And here we come to color and materials choices. The color palette for the Evoke Museum of the Senses draws inspiration from the city of Sydney itself, because our location is Sydney. So I've chosen these shades of blue, purple, and greenish colors as a primary color palette to reflect the ocean and coastal elements. And these colors, along with the materials and textures, help to enhance the sensory experience and connect visitors with the serene beauty of Sydney's coast. And you come to the second page, and yes, we cannot miss any warm tone colors as our secondary color choices as well. These warm hues add a cozy and inviting feel, and wooden materials are also something we will be incorporating into our museum as much as we can. So I want them look harmoniously with primary color and focusing on the tactile and sensory experiences. And for my typeface selection, I focused on two main points, which are experiential, but also should be readable. And there are two categories of those typefaces. Those are displayable typefaces and the typefaces for body copy. I chose Antipota Variable and Campaign Slab as my display typefaces. These typefaces are super playful and dynamic. They are perfect for titles and subtitles where we want to capture attention and add a touch of creativity as well. And they can also use for giant headings. And for the body copy, I chose Aptos. This is a contemporary sans serif typeface inspired by mid-20th century Swiss typography. Its clean lines and precise stroke endings ensure readability and convey a sense of order and clarity. And one other thing about this typeface is Aptos has been selected by Microsoft as the new default Office font. So therefore, I think we can also choose this font because of how readable and modern it is. Next, I'd like to show you a glimpse of the graphic elevation of our exhibition space. These visuals demonstrate how we've combined our typefaces, color palette, and etc. to create a dynamic and engaging environment. This graphic elevation reflects the museum's core values of fun, experiential learning, and sensory engagement. And beyond the specific aspects of the content our museum has bring up, this visual representation shows how my design choices blend to create an exciting and memorable museum experience. Last but not least, it comes to the storyboard. Given all of those design and visual-wise elements, I believe you may already have some visualizations of how you can experience in our museum and how it looks like. To convey the overall look and feel of the museum, I made some sketches here to illustrate how the contents of each hall can be from storyboard. You can see how visitors will engage with each of their senses. People can listen, smell, see, touch, feel, connect, even interact. And the storyboard itself will also reflect 3 learning goals, as Ella mentioned before. Like it's mindfulness, we can see how people are not rushed in their activities, but to immerse themselves in the present moment and interconnected world. Of course, you can see a lot of collaborative interactives and sensory inclusion. We want to incorporate lots of accessible design to make sure it's a museum for all visitors. So this is how our museum brings these sensory experiences to life. And I will let content folks walk you through each museum hall and start your journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Cindy. So now we have our exhibition walkthrough. We'll go through each of the galleries and just talk a little bit about the content. So to kick it off, we first have our lobby/introduction area, and this is themed like the nervous system. So like I said, the lobby is designed to reflect the structure of the central nervous system as this central hub for welcoming and orienting visitors before they can then branch out and go explore the different galleries themselves. So again, the main purpose is just to pique visitors' interest in the rest of the galleries. And also we have practical elements like ticketing kiosks and information desks for them. We also have a couple introductory interactives to get visitors thinking about their senses and getting excited. So it's just to introduce them to both the educational and the immersive aspects of the museum before entering.
Oh, thank you, Ella. So here we have our first full gallery space, which is all about the sense of sight. And so here in G1, visitors will learn how the human eye works and how and why we see things a certain way at both the physical and psychological level. So one of our main goals here is that the visitor will walk away from it looking at the world a little differently and be more aware of how their eyes and brain work together. And this gallery will be split up into 3 sub-galleries. So G1.1 is the science of sight with a vision and perception interactive, which I'll talk about in a second. And G1.2 is a world of color. And G1.3 is the evolution of sight, explaining how our eyes have helped us survive this long. And our vision and perception interactive is where visitors can look at different images and guess what they are. And for example, on the right, some people see a bird while some see a rabbit. And we want to get the visitor engaged and get them to think about why they see one thing over the other.
Thank you, Madeline, for those amazing contents. And I will walk through about G1.2. It's a world of color. So if you enter this exhibition, the first panel will be a world of color, and you can explore a vibrant array of colors from the everyday items around us. You can see lots of colors and explorations here, and this exhibit showcases the spectrum of colors present in our environment. And if you go a bit further, enter this section to experience the world through the lens of color blindness. From there, you can learn what is color blindness, and you can also take a color blindness test to see how colors appears to those with different color vision deficiencies. And for the next panel, you will encounter a color wheel panel. This panel features a giant and spinnable color wheel that lets you explore contrast colors, complementary colors, and various color combinations. So even for kids, it can be super playful, and you can just spin the wheel and see what's going to be happen between different colors. And last but not least, if you step a little bit further, you can see this social panel invites you to share your favorite colors and to reflect on how they might represent your personality. And it is super fun, interactive space where visitors can leave notes and enjoy exploring the personal connections between color and self-expression.
Oh, thanks, Cindy. So our second gallery is all about the sense of hearing, the art of listening. And we want the visitors to immerse themselves in the mechanisms of hearing and learn how sound not only connects us to our surroundings, but also a greater sense of community. And visitors will walk away with a better understanding of how sound fosters community and the connection music creates, the deaf and hearing impaired community, and the science behind the human ear.
Yeah.
And so this is the Soundscape Interactive, where visitors will listen to various sounds like running water, bells, drums, etc., to experience different places and emotions through those sounds. And Cindy drew up a great illustration for this interactive.
Awesome. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. Next we have G3, which is smell, scent, and sensibility. And so for this gallery, we wanted to show visitors how their sense of smell is extremely important for a lot of reasons, despite it being a more underappreciated sense that people maybe think is a bit dispensable. So for example, we talk about things like how the loss of smell impacts quality of life quite negatively and the implications there from the COVID-19 pandemic. We talk about how olfactory-based communication influences your social world, from infancy to puberty to partner selection. And we just want visitors to understand how smell is quite crucial. And we go more into depth with some of these topics in the sub-galleries, G 3.1, Science of Smell, 3.2, the nose knows, and 3.3, memory, mood, and relationships. And then also in G 3.3, we have this really cool interactive called the Memory Archive Mural, which Cindy also drew this great illustration for. And essentially what this interactive is, or where visitors can come and then they're presented with a scent, and based on a personal memory that they have associated with that scent, they can contribute to this collective mural, whether that be words or illustrations or shapes, etc. It just supposed to highlight how memories associated with scents are scientifically stronger and more powerful because of the way your brain works. And we can sort of visually show this rich tapestry of sensory experiences in the museum, which I think is really cool.
Thanks, Ella. So Gallery 4 will focus on taste. It's food for thought. And as we mentioned before, this will also be a cafe area where visitors will have a chance to rest, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, and they can process everything they just saw and learned before moving on to the rest of the museum. And food brings people together, so this is a great space to combine multiple sensations like smell, texture, and temperature to highlight the sense of taste. And the menu will, of course, offer a variety of drinks and dishes to represent all the 5 taste categories of sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and savory. So moving on from the cafe, this 5th gallery will focus on the sense of touch. We want visitors to think about how touch and their tactile experiences are essential for their own well-being. And because our world today is so digitally oversaturated, it is vital to highlight and recognize the importance of touch in a society that is often physically disconnected. And G5 will include an overview of the science behind touch, like the somatosensory system, temperature and pressure, and also include an interactive. And in this texture interactive, visitors will go on a tactile journey, discovering the versatility of touch through various textures and surfaces, and they'll be able to feel different textures such as brick, satin, fabric, etc. And this will really make the viewer think about what they are physically feeling and focus in on specific materials and consciously what they are feeling.
Awesome, great, Madeline. So now transitioning to our last 2 galleries that cover senses not traditionally included as one of like your core 5. First up is balance, the science of staying upright. So in our approach to the balance gallery, we wanted to frame it in 2 ways. 1, the science of how you literally stay balanced, and 2, from a more philosophical angle of how we stay internally balanced and peaceful in this world. So we talk about the different systems that contribute to both of these, including the vestibular system in your inner ear, but also visual and tactile cues and cognitive and mental sharpness. So in our sub-galleries, we have G 6.1, the science of equilibrioception, 6.2, balancing daily life, and 6.3, improving stability. Because, in this last gallery, we talk a lot about how you can improve your balance, because that is something that can change throughout your life. And we want to encourage visitors to grow more attuned to their physical bodies. And then we have, again, another one of these awesome storyboards that Cindy drew for G6, which is really highlighting the fun, interactive nature of this gallery, which she can speak to a little bit further.
Yeah, because this gallery will be a little bit different. In addition to engaging in all 5 basic senses, visitors here can also interact with various more sensory experience, including a balance test that you can do, and it can add an extra layer of engagement. And I think in the further, we may also include more media elements here to add more playful interactions, and it can also to make it more visually captivating and inviting to visitors.
Yes, absolutely. And then finally, we have our last true gallery, which is called interoception, what your body knows that you don't. So what interoception is it's essentially like an internal GPS system for your body, or sort of the ability to feel what is happening inside. And this umbrella category includes conscious feelings, like if you need to sleep or if you feel your heartbeat after you've been jump scared. But it also includes subconscious processes, such as if you detect that you have high glucose levels in your blood, that then triggers metabolism. So this gallery is also sort of all about being attuned to your body and what is happening. So we have two sub-galleries, the science of interoception and interoception in health, where we discuss how the concept is very linked to emotional regulation as well. And then we also have a fun interactive in G7, which is called the Heartbeat Interactive. Again, we have another illustration, and it shows that this partner activity where visitors, they come with a partner and they stand by this monitor, and then they listen to the same story or do another cooperative activity together. And the monitor should tell them if their heartbeats synchronize, and this will send up that beam of light. And so we were inspired, since it's known to happen where if two people are exposed to the same stimuli, their heartbeats do start beating at the same rate. And so it's just sort of a cute, charming activity for visitors to tune into their bodies and experience heightened interoceptive awareness. Again, just speaking to the importance of having effective communication between your mind and your body. And so last, we have our final gallery, the mindfulness room. And I'll talk a little bit about the content and then let the media team take it away. Because this last gallery is less of a traditional gallery and more of an immersive room. It's meant to be a nice conclusive experience for the visitor, focusing on how all of the senses that they've learned about throughout the museum can sort of come together and be used to focus themselves in the present moment. So the overall design of the room is focused on the idea of mindful breathing, to allow visitors to, again, reflect on their experience and have a nice transition back to the real world, having learned something, hopefully, from our museum. And I'll let JC explain this first sneak peek of what the room will look like.
So this is the mindfulness room. As you can see, there are breath rooms, which are the hemisphere pods that you can walk in and experience the breathing exercises, 3 different ones, and the collective calm, which is the big sitting area that's fuzzy and tactile.
Thank you, JC, for the sneak peek and a nice room tour. Now I will introduce the experience flow of this room. So because we want to control the room capacity, aiming for a mindful moment, in requirement for a relatively like quiet environment for the mindful moment to happen. So before visitor visiting this room, they will need to select the time they will visit and make booking through an online app, either through their laptop or mobile phone. Then after the booking, they will come into the G8. So ideally, there can be a facilitator from the museum that help with the coordination before they entering. So before they entering, we will also provide an information panel through a display screen so that visitors can be more mentally prepared and filling some knowledge gap if there's any. So after that, entering the GA, they might firstly notice on the right-hand side, there is a big area and a big sculpture-like thing that is pretty like eye-catching. So this is the collective calm area. So in this area, it's more like a group activity. So we will like design this experience through digital projection mapping and soundscapes. More details about this area will be unfolded later. And then after that, on the left-hand side, there might be captivated by the very fancy like semi-sphere 3 rooms, and they will go and have a look. So in front of each room, there will be a touchscreen kiosk. So this is the information panel that give an introduction about what is going on in each room and what it is about, things like that. So they can like go through all 3 kiosks if necessary and choose one room that they would they will feel most eager to participate and line up in the queue. So after lining up in the queue, and now it's their turn, they will go into the room and experience the brass synchronization, which is our hero interaction. After that, they will leave the brass room. And if they feel like if they feel intrigued and they want to like experience all these 3 rooms, they are more than welcome to do so. So after that, visitors feel free to exit the G8.
The collective calm area is basically you sit down or you lay down. It's sculpted in a certain way so that there are seating level areas and sloped areas and comfortable bed-shaped areas for you to lay down in comfortably. You can feel all of the woolly thread-like feeling of the material on it. And it also has caustic light animations projected on it. So it sort of feels like it's either ocean waves or some coral reef under the ocean. It has a very calming vibe that you can just immerse yourself in and anchor your body in the present moment. I created this render based on the storyboard in Blender. I roughly modeled it with subdivision modeling, and then I used geometry nodes to instance all of these curves in this sort of interesting way. The breath rooms are the experience where you get to go in and the breathing exercise. There are 3 different ones. One for they're meant for you to like become more aware of your breathing and to calm down collectively. And there are 3 different ones that are doing slightly different things. So you walk in, as the animation I made shows, and you sit on the seat and you look at the screen and you put your hand on the heart rate sensor. I also modeled all of these rooms in Blender, making sure to keep in mind the scale of how the humans would actually fit through it and the safety concerns of being in a pod like that, and the arrow showing the direction that you're supposed to walk in, and the thickness of the walls for containing projection equipment and soundproofing material.
Cool, thank you, JC. So now let's see like what's the experience like in each restroom in action. So we'll now present a concept film. So when you walk in this room, you will be graded by the room, and then you sit down, and then you'll be instructed to place your finger on the connector to connect with the room. More instruction for visitors focus on their breath and pay attention to visuals and audios. So you may notice the visual is changing and the audio is changing as well. This is also a multi-user experience. And then user will be instructed to adjust their breath following the visuals and audios to have exercising their breathing activity. And finally, coming to a reflective moment to remind visitors to also do this kind of breathing exercise when they're at home by themselves. Cool, thank you. So what you just, yep. Okay, great, thanks. So what you just saw in the concept film present a user flow like this, I will briefly walk through. So first, the user will come into each room and get settled in, and they will be instructed to connect with the room as like placing their finger on the connector. And then they can observe their breath, So the room will visualize and sonify their breath, and they can be an observer and seeing how their breath activity is going on. And entering into the next stage, so the room will give instruction to adjust to instruct visitor to adjust their breath following their surroundings. So like providing visuals and sounds and doing inhale and exhale exercise, and then finally coming to a reflective moment. Next, please. Right. So as I mentioned before, this room is also a multi-user experience and activity with a maximum occupancy of 4. So there will be a dual time of each breathing exercise, which will last around like 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute. So there will be an information panel that will be placed in front of each room, showing waiting time and the occupancy, and also the theme. So the theme is related to the visual and the room capacity. So while a visitor is lining up to enter each room, they can also like have more background information about what is mindful breathing while they're waiting. Next, I will hand over to Sam to unfold more technical details.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. So I'll be going more into detail of why we made certain design choices and how we can make this interactive happen. So because we're building the interactive around the concept of mindful breathing, for the sensor side, we chose the pulse sensor over other possibilities like sensing the air fluctuation, because of the pulse sensor's accessibility and hygienic nature, which makes it the best way for us to collect the biometric data from our users. And because breath also influences the heart rate through the automatic nervous system and also maintaining physiological balance and responding to stress. So we are actually able to test out with using the pulse sensor, just to better understand how the data was being collected and what would be the best physical location for us to place the sensor throughout this installation. So as you can see on the left side, we tested successfully grabbing the data and placing it just on a nearby surface of where the user is sitting. And we collected the data seamlessly from them just placing their hand on it. So furthermore, we are planning to have a hand imprint to kind of indicate where the hand location should be placed. And on the right side, we were actually also able to conduct a few user tests to observe the incoming pulse data pattern. The pattern was varied amongst different users. So throughout the test, we were actually able to refine the algorithm of how the visual is being mapped to the data based on the test results. And just in order to ensure it caters to a wide range of user scenarios. And moving further into the visuals that we have designed to be mapped into the incoming data of the pulse sensor. And this is also what we have projected into the space. So as Christina mentioned before, there are 2 stages of the experience where we can design. As you can see on the left side, where for stage 1 for the mindful breathing, we have these swarming particles being mapped to the data, and how we're using the data from the multi-user experience is that we're grabbing the average of the collective pulse data from the multiple users. So as you can see, the particles are gradually grouping and centering in the middle. And the color also changes, which indicates the experience is guiding the users to enter a deeper perception state as they become more aware and attuned to their individual breathing cycle, and which allows the users to achieve a state of relaxation and will prepare them for stage 2. And stage two is what you can see on the right side, which is for the guided breathing. And we're keeping the centric particle circulation from stage 1 as a continuous element. And we added expanding and contracting visuals to represent the motion of inhale and exhale. And together with the text instruction, we're guiding the users through the breathing exercise. The duration of each expansion and contraction group is said to be around 15 seconds, which allows the users to achieve 4 deep breaths in a span of 1 minute. And we also added the star particles in the background to enhance the overall calming atmosphere. And lastly, with all the design and components figured out, we moved on to the overall AV system design and how we can connect everything together. So from the 2 images on the left side, this is a system diagram indicating how all components can be connected to each other. We have both visual and audio systems set up. For the visual, we have multiple projectors to achieve a multi-interface projection. And for the audio, we have an audio interface, amplifier, and multiple speakers to create an immersive sound scope. And there's also the indication on the diagram of where the pulse sensor will be located, which, as mentioned before, is next to where the users are sitting. On the right side, we were actually able to push it more further and to do a lab prototyping session using the NYC lab projection system setup. And hence that is what we have shown in the concept film previously. We conducted the test with the aim to test out the multi-interface projection to evaluate the scaling of some both digital content as well as the physical setup, and just to walk through the overall user flow to see if it makes sense. The test went really smoothly, but it also helped us to realize some possible opportunities of improvements. And we ended up refining the text scale projected onto the wall, as well as shortening the duration of the overall experience to be around 3 minutes. So yeah, that basically concludes the development that we have done for the media piece, what we have done for G8, as well as the entire walkthrough for our exhibition halls. And furthermore, I'll be handing it to JC to share some plans that we have for possible future developments.
So we didn't have an exhibition intern, so we weren't able to make too much, but if we were to continue, we would refine the floor plan and create graphics and motions for every gallery and delve into content research and continue image research and actually test the prototype of the mindfulness room breathing pods more.
Awesome. And that pretty much concludes our presentation. We wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for listening. And thank you so much to all of our supervisors and all of the staff who helped us and consulted with us along the way. Would not have been possible. So yeah, thank you. Oh, and also, if anyone has any questions, we have 10 minutes.
Great job, guys. Yeah, feel free to put any questions in the chat if people have any for the crew, or just unmute and ask. We'll also share out the recording and the PDF later on Slack.
I don't have a question.
Oh.
This is regarding the font that we are using. So we have chosen a bunch of fonts to be used throughout all the galleries, and I can see that the interactive are also using some of the fonts. Have you considered about licensing of the fonts? This is a question for visual design and tech team.
Great question. Thank you for asking. Unfortunately not. Like those typefaces, for us, we can use Adobe because they are all very free at Adobe Fonts Library. And for Aptos, like Microsoft is giving everybody a license right now, and everybody can free download it. And for all designers, if you want to use it, you can also download it. And right now it's all free, and we have so much variables of those typefaces. And right now we are really take advantage of this kind of situation, but for any commercial uses, we will definitely need to chat more with finance team and
the reason
about the license
for this
and prices.
Yeah, the reasoning for this is for softwares. If you're creating an asset that's rendered as an image or a video, we can use this same license. But when it comes to showing live stuff, we'll have to install the license on those computers that's running those experiences. So be something that to think about in the future.
Thank you so much. It's really good to know. Thank you.
I think you all did amazing jobs. You have a lot of works, which is amazing. And consider your future work. I think you also mentioned that you don't have exhibition design intern. But I think if you have a chance to think about the spatial experience, like how does the visitor move across different galleries? Because I think for each gallery, you have a very strong personality, which is good. but it might also feel a little bit too much in some aspect. So I might think about, I'm gonna try to think about how to keep all the galleries you have, but try to connect them. For example, can you create a vertical space that people at the upper floor can also smell the coffee downstairs, so you don't need to separate it at different rooms, but they can kind of connect together. Or people can see people doing the balance activity, and here they felt somehow that is somehow connected. And it also implies that all the senses are functioning separately, but also together to form a body. So I think it could be also a good metaphor, conceptualize, concept-wise. But you really do a good job.
I have a comment and a question. First of all, that was just awesome. Like I said in the chat, definitely want to go to this museum. And I really love the way that you guys worked together, and just especially the integration of strategy and creative, which we're increasingly doing. But I thought this was just a great model for. And I also, something I thought was especially cool was the way that you filmed the prototyping in the lab. I personally haven't seen that done before. Like, we show prototypes, but the way that you almost turned it into a little bit of a reel where there was like production value to the close-up on the hands. And I thought that was a cool thing to think about incorporating into our work. I would just love to hear, I guess, what you guys learned from the process specifically of collaborating with one another. Just if anybody wants to share your takeaways from that.
Thank you, Jessica. So honestly, because we have the access to view like previous intent presentation, and we also noticed there is no like concept film showing. But however, we do believe that showing concept film really give a contextual understanding, especially when you're pitching a new design idea. And it's like with the real people and walking into a real area and have that kind of volumetric information can really stand out. So one of my biggest takeaway is considering the time constraint that we have, like having a concept film shooting out, meaning that you need to have a prototype, you need to have visual already stuff. It seems like impossible. Like within the time that we have, but finally we still make it. I'm really proud of our team. And this is sort of my takeaway, like team efforts can really be impressive and doing something, accomplishing an impossible mission. And the second thing I learned a lot through this project is that, so I have the chance to work with like other interns with other professions and discipline, something I don't have. So it's not my profession, for example, like finance and content. And I think it's a really valuable learning opportunity for me to try to like think about design from other people's perspective with like different specialty background. It can really like consolidate design idea and help to develop further.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to second what Christina said in response to Jessica, your question. It's just really cool to work with people who, again, just think about problems in a different way. We can problem solve together. It's like I'm thinking about, I don't know, like put a period there or whatever, but then JC can create these amazing renders and then thinks about considerations like the fire consideration, which it just never crossed my mind. Also a lot of UX thinking, like the experiential goals that really shaped how we wrote the content that Christina brought to the table. I just hadn't thought about that before, and it's really cool to be able to see what they bring and how we can make this awesome product in the end.
I had two questions. And one might have actually been addressed, but the sensor thing that you put the hand on, the thing that you tested, how did you guys acquire that technology? And like, did you just get a sample, or like does that actually belong to the company now, is the first question. And then the second question was about the sculpture and the mindfulness area, and how at its tallest point, how big is it?
Oh, yeah. Hi, thank you for the question. I think for the technology side, as we mentioned, we wanted to focus on the concept of breathing, and there were also other possibilities that we're thinking of, maybe for breathing, like the most intuitive way is to like sense if you have been breathing, like the one they do for like alcohol driving, like test or something. But also just to check the air fluctuation. But in consideration, we thought that wouldn't be the most feasible and the most hygienic way to actually grab the data from the users. So through some different research, and also the heart rate sensor was mentioned before for another interactive. We know there is a very tight connection between like heart rate, the pulse, and breathing. So that's when we kind of like migrated to the concept of using the pulse and checking the connection from it to the breathing and to see if they can influence each other. And for the sensor, we actually did order it on the company's credit card. So yeah, I think it will be kept in the company in the NYC lab. So if anybody, feel free just to grab it and explore further.
And that big sculpture thing, do you know offhand at its tallest point, how tall is that thing? Yeah. this is
I have everything in physical measurements. I'll open it up now and see.
That's just a detailer asking a detailer kind of question.
It's about
Suspenseful.
4.8 meters tall at its peak. So that's almost 16 feet.
Well,
Maria, you have a question?
Sorry, may I have a side note here? So considering like the physical size of the museum, so something that Nick and Matt told me is that do you have like an idea about what's the size, actual size of the museum and how large it should be? Because it also like go with some policy things to consider. So considering like it is a passion project and there's like no like really there's a budget or what, and I think we don't have a constraint and that much in this project. So yes, so anything like physical size is not fixed and not considered, I would say.
Well, that's a great point. I think going blue sky makes sense for the passion project. So thanks for clarifying. I think you guys did a great job. I'm just wondering if there's anything that just being at GNA and kind of doing some work alongside with the passion project, if anyone had an aha moment that you were like, oh, my work that I learned while I was working is also supporting what I'm doing in the passion project, or vice versa, where your exploration on the passion project was then supporting something you were working with.
I think for me, oh, go ahead.
There you go.
Go ahead, Sydney.
Oh, okay. So especially for me, I'm very specific in design and visualize for this project. And like I created the graphic elevation. This is something I've never created before. So everything like I want to give a big shout out to Tara. Like she really walked me through the whole process of pulling up elevation and how to do spatial design from zero, and how to like measure everything and how to make the design more accessible. And that was something I can really focus and just pull in the like put it in the passion project to make it more impressive. Yeah, that's something what I learned.
Yes, thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Tara.
Did someone else has an answer to that too, who was speaking? Then maybe we'll wrap up and we'll share this on Slack, and if there's more questions, people can post them.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I think something that I really learned was how to present the slide deck, I think, especially like how we're describing the entire flow and the logic of this entire pitch. So I think a lot of us referenced to both past internship, like past passion project slide decks, as well as other ongoing client pitches. So I think that really helps us a lot in how we can better present our idea. But yeah.
And all of you did such a great job presenting, which I know is hard, especially as an intern when you don't have experience in that. So great job. Thank you everyone for joining. We will share the recording and download the presentation. If there's any other questions or anything, feel free to post them. Thanks all.
Let's just unmute and do a big woohoo for this team. Way to go, interns.
Yay!
Woo! Good job, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.